Your birthday is approaching fast. Someone at work or a friend casually asks you what your grand plans are to celebrate this year. You look at them, shrug your shoulders, and simply reply that you are not doing anything at all. It is just another normal day for you. Immediately, you notice that subtle shift in their facial expression. They look at you with a mixture of pity, confusion, and maybe even a little bit of concern. Your friends might think you are just being unnecessarily negative. Your family probably assumes you are in a terrible mood or going through a difficult phase. Society as a whole has this deeply ingrained assumption that if you are not surrounded by a glowing cake, expensive gifts, and a group of cheering people taking smiling photos of you, then something must be profoundly wrong with your mental state. But I want you to pause and think about this for a second. What if there is absolutely nothing wrong with you? What if the simple fact that you feel completely indifferent about your own birthday actually reveals something deeply fascinating about how your specific nervous system operates? Psychologists have spent years studying this exact behavioral pattern, and what they discovered completely shatters the social stigma surrounding birthdays. They found out that the people who prefer to ignore their birthdays are not just one single homogeneous group of grumpy or depressed individuals. In reality, they typically fall into three very distinct psychological profiles. Some of them had to learn the hard way to simply stop expecting anything good to happen. Others just possess a brain that is wired to process time and priorities in a completely different manner. And then there is a small, unique group of people who have reached a profound level of self-realization that the rest of the world finds incredibly difficult to understand. Let us start by unpacking the first group, mainly because these are the people who will almost never speak up about their true feelings. There are so many individuals out there who stopped celebrating their special day, not because they genuinely wanted to, but because their nervous system learned that expecting joy is a highly dangerous game. Back in the 1960s, a prominent psychologist named Martin Seligman discovered a powerful psychological concept that he called learned helplessness. When a human being experiences repeated disappointments in a specific situation, and they feel completely powerless to change the outcome, the brain eventually starts doing something incredibly fascinating. It just stops trying. It shuts down the desire entirely. This does not happen because the person is weak, broken, or overly sensitive. It happens because your brain is a highly advanced survival machine, and it is desperately trying to protect you from feeling that same sharp sting of emotional rejection again. Birthdays can very easily turn into a high-stakes emotional experiment for a child. When we are little kids, we are conditioned by society to expect very specific, magical things on our birthday. We expect the people we love to remember us without us having to remind them. We expect to feel seen, cherished, and deeply special. We expect the entire day to feel completely different from the heavy routine of the rest of the year. But what happens when those innocent expectations are shattered year after year? Maybe the people who were supposed to show up did not. Maybe the environment was toxic and your special day was overshadowed by family arguments. The brain starts to rapidly adjust its emotional predictions. This is where modern neuroscience steps in to perfectly explain your behavior. Researchers have proven that the dopamine in our brains does not just respond to getting a physical reward. It actually responds to the gap between what you expected to happen and what actually happened in reality. If you expect something wonderful and it happens, you get a massive dopamine spike. But if you expect to feel loved and special, and the day ends in silence, emptiness, or conflict, the neurological drop is absolutely devastating. It physically hurts. So, as the years go by, your highly intelligent brain learns one very simple protective rule. It is mathematically and emotionally much safer to expect absolutely nothing. When you tell people that your birthday is just another day, it is not always coming from a place of pure apathy or indifference. Very often, it is a sophisticated form of emotional protection. It is a heavy suit of armor that you built piece by piece, disappointment by disappointment, to guard your fragile inner child from the pain of hoping for too much.
But the story does not end there, because not everyone who ignores their birthday is carrying around unhealed wounds from the past. There is a second, entirely different psychological reason that is rarely talked about. Some people genuinely and honestly just forget that their birthday is coming up. They are not secretly sad. They are not actively avoiding unresolved trauma. Their minds are simply operating on a completely different frequency. Psychologists refer to this phenomenon as time blindness or cognitive overload. This is incredibly common among individuals who are hyper-focused on their daily survival, their intense creative projects, or their demanding work routines. When your nervous system is constantly locked into a state of solving complex problems, building a secure future, or just trying to keep your head above water in a stressful world, arbitrary dates on a calendar begin to lose all of their structural meaning. The days blend into each other. The weeks fly by in a chaotic blur. The calendar stops feeling like a rigid framework and becomes more of an abstract, distant concept. Eventually, certain social events get automatically archived by your brain into a mental folder labeled non-urgent. It is the exact same mental folder where you keep that doctor appointment you have postponed 4 times, or that endless to-do list that never seems to get shorter. If you fall into this category, ignoring your birthday is not a tragic sign of low self-esteem or self-hatred. It is literally just the biological reality of a mind that is currently juggling way too many heavy responsibilities at the exact same time. Your brain is prioritizing your daily functioning and peace of mind over a symbolic societal celebration. You are not broken. You are simply exhausted and profoundly occupied with the reality of living. But then, we arrive at the third group of people. And from a psychological standpoint, this is arguably the most fascinating category of them all. These individuals do not forget their birthdays because they are overwhelmed with stress. They also do not actively ignore the date because they are trying to protect themselves from the deep pain of past disappointments. They simply do not need the celebration at all. They have quietly observed the entire elaborate ritual of birthdays. The bright candles, the loud congratulations, the forced social gatherings, and they have arrived at a very simple, grounded conclusion. They just do not need any of it to feel good about their existence. Psychology actually has a very clear explanation for this profound state of being. The renowned researchers Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, who are the brilliant creators of the self-determination theory, spent decades studying what actually makes human beings truly happy. What they found was incredibly eye-opening. The people who possess the highest levels of psychological well-being do not rely heavily on external events or social validation to feel good about themselves. Their deep sense of personal value comes entirely from within. It does not come from a specific date on the calendar. It does not come from an expensive celebration. And it certainly does not come from having 30 people sing an incredibly awkward song to them in the middle of a crowded restaurant. These emotionally grounded individuals have deeply understood a concept that researcher Philip Brickman famously called the hedonic treadmill. This is the exhausting human tendency to constantly chase the next special moment, the next major achievement, the next loud celebration, and the next massive spike of temporary happiness. But the reality is that those emotional peaks almost never last. So some people have simply chosen to step off that endless wheel. They do not wait around for one highly specific, socially mandated day out of the year to feel like their life matters. They have learned how to feel entirely complete and worthy on a random, quiet Tuesday afternoon. And interestingly enough, this quiet inner peace can make other people feel incredibly uncomfortable, because it breaks a widely accepted social belief. It shatters the idea that everyone must constantly crave attention and external validation. However, before we conclude, we must address a very delicate truth. Not everyone who avoids their birthday is doing it from a place of absolute healing and freedom. There is another fascinating layer here. The psychologist Jennifer Crocker from the University of Michigan studied something called the contingencies of self-worth. Her research revealed that some people actively avoid specific situations because those situations could potentially confirm their deepest, darkest fears about themselves. In other words, some people refuse to celebrate their birthday, not because they are completely free from the need for love, but because they are terrified that if they do throw a party and it does not turn out perfectly, it will serve as painful proof that they are unlovable. They are afraid of testing the waters and finding out who actually cares, so they prefer to not try at all. It is a powerful form of self-sabotage disguised as independence.
There is a massive, life-changing difference between genuinely not needing a celebration and desperately wanting one but not allowing yourself to have it out of fear. If you are someone who claims to not care about your birthday, I want you to ask yourself one question with total and complete honesty. Is your indifference rooted in true emotional freedom, or is it secretly rooted in fear? Only you know the real answer deep down in your nervous system. But the simple fact that you are sitting here, reflecting on your inner world, already says so much about your emotional depth. Perhaps we have spent years completely misunderstanding what it actually means to love ourselves. Society taught us that celebrating means you care, that throwing a party is the only valid proof that you value your life. But maybe true self-love does not always have to look like a loud, crowded room. Maybe sometimes self-love looks like something much more silent. It is the quiet, gentle acceptance that surviving another day on this earth is already enough. It is the peace of not having to perform your happiness for an audience. There is a high chance that someone watching this video right now spent their last birthday completely alone in their room, doing absolutely nothing special, and yet they felt perfectly at peace. If that person is you, please hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are not weird. You simply belong to a rare group of people who no longer need the world's permission to feel whole. If this video found its way to your screen today, perhaps it was not a coincidence at all. If you have ever spent a birthday in pure silence and felt completely okay with it, leave a quiet comment below to let others know they are not alone. And if you want to keep exploring the deep, hidden truths of human behavior, make sure to subscribe to Psychology of You, because our next video might just explain another deeply hidden part of your soul that you have not even discovered yet.